So we watch PragerU from time to time. They have been. Can you believe PragerU has slipped further into grift content? Lowest effort possible clickbait type shit. This one's not so much clickbait because it's about the Gilded Age, which isn't necessarily a hot button issue, but it is. They're trying to do that counter propaganda thing. Like, this is just nefarious. Like, it's pretty obvious at this point. Things like PragerU and stuff, it's orchestrated by the billionaire class trying to tell people, like, hey, actually, don't kill billionaires. And you know what? Who would be more invested in not killing billionaires than the billionaires themselves? So this was called Why the Gilded Age Was Golden. The Gilded Age was, of course, the age of robber barons. So let's see what they say.
We are living in a second Gilded Age. That's the argument of many commentators, especially those who would like to increase taxes on the rich.
Oh, those icky tax increasers. So they're saying this because we're having a lot of labor disputes, that the left is winning, and that labor ought to continue to win. The robber barons are bad, and you should tax them. You should make sure that they don't have the money to you should make sure they don't have all the fucking resources, because we don't have kings here. It's very strange that these people want kings, though. It's actually quite cucky, if you ask me.
Or marshal squadrons of lawyers to mount an antitrust battle against monopolists like Google or Amazon. The reason
I'm against those corporations, but I'm also opposed, not because they're monopolies, but because they're deeply corrupt corporations. Like, their monopolization of certain and cornering certain markets is bad, but that's like gonna happen inevitably with anything, especially when you put greed at the forefront, and they're just going to continue to conglomerize until you break them up. And that's the thing that's going to happen every time. There's another thing that's happening right now. I can't remember who it was. There's two more companies that are essentially just joining forces, and it's going to be bad. Fuck. If you would have asked me 2 days ago about it, which was the weekend, I would have known them. But no, we smoked it away. It's too late.
The commentators cite the Gilded Age is that period, 1880 to 1900, had its own Elon Musk, Sergey Brin, and Jeff Bezos. These were the titans who built up big steel or the railroads.
The titans, wow. Such heroes, you see. The heroes of modern industry, yes.
Our textbooks tell us that those men were robber barons who captured all the wealth. The robber barons locked in their monopolies and barred the door to advancement for everybody else.
Wow, that is not... Okay. Labor disputes were central among this, not specifically the advancement of everybody else or whatever the fuck you're saying. She looks wacky as fuck. This is a bad casting choice, PragerU. Quite wacky looking. Every time I pause her, she looks like she's saying the most unhinged shit, and she kind of is. Robber barons were bad. Exploitation of labor is bad. They had children in fucking factories. Susie, or whatever your name. What was your name? Amity Schlaze? Schlaze?
The poor stayed poor with no opportunity for their children. As economist Henry...
You can tell this person's never been broke before because they say poor.
Poor stayed poor.
Poor? Have you ever heard a poor person say poor ever in your life? Of course not. Because that's how you... It's almost like a slur to her. She's almost putting stank on it. Ooh, a poor. Ugh.
With no opportunity for their children. As economist Henry George wrote at the time, the tendency was for the rich to become very much richer, the poor to become more helpless and hopeless, and the middle class to be swept away.
Huh. It's pretty strange. Sounds like Stewie Griffin. And all these geniuses, they're trying to be like, how do we keep capitalism from teetering us off the cliff? How do we keep it from happening? Maybe if we did more different capitalisms, it would continue to work. Should continue to stake everyone's survival on capitalism, even though we have the resources to just like not put selection pressure on humans. we could just thrive, man. We could literally thrive, and you could have your markets for a while. Like, let's be real, the markets over time would pretty much dry up. You know what I mean? Like, once you phase out of commodification of every goddamn thing, and you get to live for free, you're gonna slow down a little bit. You're not gonna be chasing money like you are, and we're gonna just like take a breath. Innovation will happen from people that want to innovate for the convenience and advancement of society. I don't know. It's not gonna be perfect by any means, but goddamn it, this is fucking stupid. This is just a silly system. Anyone can look at this system and be like, that's not working. That's just not a working thing. You're always chasing an impossible goal. How can you have more money? You created the system. What? They're beholden to this fucking game.
The haves had everything over the have-nots.
Yes. So the haves had everything. The haves and have-nots. The rich hoarded wealth like dragons. And the poor were not allowed to have wealth. And because wealth is what you need to have, health and security in this country, it was shit.
Only antitrust assaults on big companies like Standard Oil or new taxes could make America fairer. Or so say the textbooks.
How about a new system altogether instead of this shit? Like, this is regulated capitalism. And you're just like, the whole problem with capitalism at the jump is that everybody is clawing for little coins. And if you're like, no, you can't have as many coins, people will be like, oh, my coins! I want more coins than I have. Of course, right? Because you said everything is about making coins. So people are going to kill each other over coins. That's what you have now. People are going to scrape and claw. And sometimes the government is going to try to scrape and claw for coins because they bought into coins. This is just so silly. It doesn't make any sense. It's such a madness. Like, capitalism is kind of a shared delusion. It's just a game. It doesn't have to be this way. You can still have markets and not stake your lives on it.
But the reality was
so
different.
Crazy.
In fact, the Gilded Age was a good time for many Americans, even poor Americans.
Poor ones? The Gilded Age was a good time for poors? Interesting.
The claim that the rich were richer was true. Jay Gould made a fortune in railroads. John D. Rockefeller built the stunningly successful Standard Oil.
He built it. That's what he did. He built that.
And Andrew Carnegie's steel company gave him a net worth as big as a whole country.
Did you say Carnegie? Fascinating. You've heard of Carnegie Hall, but now try Carnegie Hall.
These men did build giant mansions and sailed around in yachts.
Yep, and they should have had their heads cut up. Wait, that just rhymed. It's just because it rhymed. Wait, you can say that someone who's dead already should have had their head cut off. I think. I don't think it's against TOS to say that Andrew Carnegie ought to have, ethically speaking, earlier than he did, had his head cut off by revolutionaries. But it didn't happen. That's an alt history situation. That's all I'm doing. This guy kind of looks like Jack. Twitter guy.
That the poor were poorer.
Dude, I cannot. She keeps saying poor. Spider Kowski, you won a hooligan Grundy. Thanks so much.
Is also accurate. But that poverty was not permanent for most.
Only 20 years of poverty? Not permanent? And only most? Aw, great! That's really good!
The years 1880 to 1900 were bumpy ones. But many poor Americans
Only 20 years. Good job, dude.
saw life improve. Food prices, for example, dropped
Corn.
sharply. Meanwhile,
I would not be shocked to find out that was due to some regulation, by the way. Food prices dropped. Food prices dropped 18. I mean, we're talking about we're annexing territory. Like you don't have you have the Wild West still. That's literally prime Wild West times. Is 1880 to 1900. Food prices were low. You could also scalp a man for money. They were hunting buffalo to extinction. Great.
while wages rose, and dramatically, real wages for workers and
Wages rose? Now, that's interesting. During the Gilded Age, why did wages rise, PragerU? Why were the wages rising during the Gilded Age, during the labor strikes? Like, we're talking about the first labor movements, real labor movements in America here, right?
factories climbed by 45%.
Why? Do you say why?
In these hopeful years,
Oh my fucking God.
illiteracy dropped by more than a third.
And where did they get that education from? Was it by the publicly funded public school system? What? Are you telling me that the government, during its rapid expansion era, had its hand in building infrastructure throughout the country, and then, over the course of like this slavery South versus North, states' rights stuff, over the course of that, like, you get more atomized and your quality drops because you're like, no, we want to privatize this. Fucking why?
Fewer babies died.
Huh. Couldn't have anything to do with medical science. Not a damn thing to do.
Life expectancy rose by 21%, and the
Well, if you were white.
quality of life improved.
If you were white. All of these things were if you were white.
In the olden days, especially
The olden days.
before the Civil War, it was hard to get away from your hometown. Now the expanding network of rails meant anyone tired of the plow could ride a train to the city. Americans enjoyed a new freedom to live where they wanted.
Oh, you wait a sec. PragerU is in favor of a national rail system? What? Wow. People's mobility being affordable is good for a country's development? You know what would be pretty good is if every single person could do this irrespective of any cost to them. Don't you think that would... Because you acknowledge that this is like a good thing. The mobility of a human being is a good thing. But we don't have... Do we have to pay gate that? Or could we have a national rail system because you acknowledge that the thing is beneficial just to have as an infrastructure thing? You know? Like a road. Capitalist, dude. It's a bunch of horses looking at a lake of water. And they're just like, what are we supposed to do with this? And then they just fight each other over scraps of fucking, like, dirt. Like, fucking grazing. No one knows where the roads came from. No one knows.
Riding on rails supplied by one robber baron in a train built by another.
Rails supplied by a robber baron. He had contracts with the United States government and this was part of the rapid expansion of America and the displacement of the native populations. This was not a good thing. This was pure capitalist greed. So he got these government contracts to do these things, right? And then it was a privatized venture, so he was in charge of the labor and then didn't treat those laborers correctly out on the Wild West frontier. Literally was able, like, all of these people were literally able to kill their employees. They had, like, strong men that would kill their employees if they acted out. They had labor towns. You had whole towns built around strong robber barons that were, building railroads or doing oil or whatever, and they were kings out on the fucking frontier, dude. But luckily, there was a frontier, and sometimes they got killed.
Most important of all, the door of opportunity was open. The single most important tool for advancement is education.
Fascinating. Why don't we make this nationally available to every single person without charge to them? They admit that this is a good thing. They'll say in another video that, in fact, education is, like, not the most important tool for advancement, of course. The Pinkertons only harass MTG content creators who get cards early. That's all they've never done. That's right. That's what they're for.
And education exploded. High schools were the engines of education. In the 4 decades after 1870, the number of high schools in America climbed to 10,000 from 500.
Due to a national program for public schooling as they rapidly expanded westward.
Immigrants bet that if they did not escape the sweatshop, their children would.
Their children would escape the sweatshop to work in the robber baron's fucking factory. You're so stupid. She needs to go work in a factory. She needs to be forced to work in a factory. This is why the communists made work camps. They were like, no, you just have to go.
Go.
You have to go work in a factory, make nuts and bolts. This is why they did it. They were petty. She should build a railway. Oh, man. Conservatives sucking the dicks of the founding fathers and then hating on public education pisses me off to no end. Yeah, I'm ethically opposed to work camps, by the way, for the record.
And that was a bet they won. And what about those permanent monopolies? It turned out they were not so permanent. And that wasn't because of antitrust action. It was because of competition.
This is not true in every case at all.
The best example was the almighty railroads. Even as Congress passed laws to try to curb big profits,
even though there was lots of regulation,
the railroads' power to dominate was already doomed. On the horizon stood the new trucking industry.
Bro. The railway system, oh my god, it's fine. We should go back to railway. It would actually be better. This is so stupid.
Ready to roll in.
PragerU rewriting history? No way.
Politicians ignored these
No
realities.
way.
It was more fun to go after the rich with antitrust suits. President Theodore Roosevelt claimed that bringing down trusts would give the worker a square deal. Some say TR's...
Dude, these fucking Teddy Roosevelt ass. Yeah, and then if we give them a square deal, future capitalists will surely honor that situation. Huh? Because I believe in the best of men. Fuck off. Capitalism creates fucking monsters. It creates it. What did you expect? What did you expect to happen?
Trust busting caused a
Guys are so
financial
stupid,
panic.
dude.
The Panic of 1907. As it happened, that panic hurt the very workers Roosevelt aimed to protect, driving up joblessness to 8% from 3%. Hardly a square deal. Congress crafted a new institution to punish the rich, the income tax. This tax likewise failed to get the result its advocates advertised.
What? I can't. And it's because the billionaires didn't observe it? Yeah, but who panicked? Who was panicking? Was it the rich that failed us or the poor? Yeah.
Lawmakers insisted on high rates. They made these same arguments we hear today.
I agree that capitalists are stupid. I fucking agree.
Higher rates reduce inequality and squeeze money out of the top 1%.
Absolutely, there should be this happening under this capitalism right now. 100%. If you just decoupled survival from this shit, like, the government doesn't have to observe money. It just has to give money to people for their labor, for doing things for them. It just has to pay their employees, right? The government itself is fake. It's a construct. The government doesn't need money. Now imagine if every American, including all government employees and every single person, has access to free living, free high quality, high dignity living. Most people stop paying rent overnight. If you want to pay for, a nice house or something, I'm fine with you. I'm fine with the pursuit of luxury in markets. Essentially, I don't really seem to have, but I don't know. Not at the expense. I don't know. Not in the way that American luxury is, though. Like, I'm fine if you want to fucking, I don't know, go to the beach and have a hammock. I don't know. Have a nice meal. But these people want, like, fucking yachts. I don't know. It just doesn't seem ethical, man. I don't know why you think this is ethical. Don't squeeze money out of them. Gore it. Ooh, juice it out of them with a lemon juicer. You could tap it like a maple.
In response, however, companies simply curtailed business. At least 1 in 10 men was unemployed. In the 1920s, Congress responded by lowering taxes for top earners. Companies grew, and workers got what mattered more to them.
Wow. So that's how we came out of the Great Depression, huh? Nothing to do with war efforts. No, none of that. Fascinating. And the Great Depression lasted how fucking long, dude? Not having rent due fundamentally changed my... Exactly. Yeah. Imagine, I don't know how much everyone pays, but $1,200 was, last time we checked, was the average rent for an apartment. Imagine 1 year where you got to keep $1,200 a month. The Great Depression is still going on. It's happening right now. New Deal, never heard of it.
Jobs. And along the way came new innovations, such as electricity, even better than kerosene.
They had electricity. Electricity had been rolling out for a while. It's whatever.
Given this record, it's surprising that we vilify the Gilded Age. One problem is that most books portray this period as a kind of anti-wealth cartoon.
Yeah, it should absolutely be anti-wealth. I agree that the country wasn't extreme enough.
Another problem is our politicians.
Oh,
the story
damn.
of have and have not is a story that evokes envy, and politicians enjoy playing on our envy.
Mm-hmm.
That
and you're doing that now.
Doesn't mean we have to be played. The years 1880 to 1900 may have been gilded for some, but for many, they were golden.
Dude, she can't even read this.
I'm Amity Schlaze, author of Coolidge for Prager University.
Author of Coolidge, and they got her ass off the screen as fast as possible, dude. They're like, okay, that's the end of this. Yeah, so all the good things that were cited in that were government programs. It's crazy. It was regulation, and anytime we moved towards socialization of things, it got better. Even the capitalist stuff was, like, helped out by government subsidies. which is, quite socialist. Huh. And of course, it had to do with, manifest destiny and colonialism. Pretty awful stuff. Great job, PragerU. We have no faith at all in humanity now. Wonderful.